Hello, 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 and welcome to a Monday afternoon edition of the Board Game Design Variety Hour. I'm Matthew Dunstan, host for today. How is everyone going? I'm a bit running a bit late with things, so I'll just send off some social media things, but I think we're okay. Hi everyone, hey Jay, Bass, Bram, Robin, Robert, Mandela, welcome all. Hope everyone's had a good weekend. How is everyone going? What was the weekend like? It was, I guess, it was the last, the last gasp of sort of holidays and feeling like you could do whatever you wanted and not have to stress too much. I'm not sure if other people have to go back to work today. I mean, I'm still working from home, so I guess in some ways it doesn't quite have the feeling of going back to work. Hey Nicola, how you going? Mentally you get into a different space and you start getting more work-related emails and things like that. But anyway, wherever you are, hope things are going well and reaching you well on this Monday afternoon, evening, morning if you're in the US. So got my normal Earl Grey tea. Really good recommendation if you get a chance to look back on Bez's stream from this morning. It was actually really, really fantastic, and I'm trying to find where's the link I had for it. Chatting with Tamea Farkas. Just brought her up. I have to get her over here. Everyone chat amongst themselves. Oh, hey Simon, how you going? Welcome. I had a really great Christmas. I guess I haven't seen you. Thanks for joining the stream. Yes, I was talking about that. Bez had a really great stream this morning with Tamea Farkas. Who is currently sort of a composer and musician. I missed a bit of it. I need to go back and watch more of it, but is currently doing a PhD in looking at adaptive music while playing board games and things like this. I found it absolutely fascinating, and I would really recommend checking out the stream and checking out Tamea. She seems to be sort of active on Twitter and things like that. So. That's my first kind of recommendation. But it was a good way to start the day. I don't know if some others was there and a few others I'm sure watching Bez's stream. So thumbs up from me. I love actually one of the great things about what Bez is doing. I don't know, have I got a mod who would be able to shout out Bez in the comments? I can probably find it too. Hold on. Whoops. Oh gosh, it's doing something. Whoops. That's fine. Oh, cheers. Thanks. If you're not following Bez already, do that. Link is in the comments. But I just love the really wide variety of guests that she's having on at the moment. And I think for me, one of the things and it was similar at BG DevCon, which was sort of a development convention that Bez organized and ran for several years. And would have last year had it not been for obviously the pandemic. But it's just the variety of getting speakers from different backgrounds, sort of board game adjacent backgrounds, which I think I just find really interesting because there are sort of new perspectives on similar ideas or similar problems of design and of interaction and of immersion, but just with that sort of like twist on way of thinking. And because sometimes in the board game bubble, and like the board game design bubble, which is even a smaller bubble, you tend to get, you get the same things getting said a lot over and over again. And it's nice to, just to hear things from a different point of view, a different thing. So that's the kind of the first thing, which just came straight to mind, but that was more because I was thinking back to what I'd been doing over the weekend and today. But yeah. So today, I also was playing some, had some random GeoGuessr streams on the weekend. If anyone wants to see me bumble around, you can catch up on the videos there. I guess I will continue to be, randomly doing streams on the weekend, playing games. I played a bit of Slay the Spire as well. But yeah, well, I'm not going to schedule something because I think it will just be a bit dependent. In other channel news, I need some sort of like news broadcast. Some of you may have seen, I said on Twitter that I'm now adding a stream to my schedule. It's going to be on Wednesday mornings, European time. It'll be 9 a.m. GMT or 10 a.m. Central European time. And I'm trying to stick to an hour. I'm calling it a game design cuppa. For those who don't know, in Australia we call a cup of tea a cuppa. So it's hopefully an hour in the morning just to drink some tea together. A little bit more. Well, I mean, hopefully this stream is already pretty relaxing, but even more relaxed. A good way to start the day and lead into Bez's stream, which will follow straight after. That's why I'll try and keep very much to an hour, and yeah, just answer questions and chat about anything that comes to mind. It'll be a little looser in the format and things like that. So yeah, so that's 9 a.m. GMT, 10 a.m. Central European time every Wednesday. So yeah, and I'll keep doing the streams on Mondays and Fridays at this time. So yeah, you can get me 3 times a week. Is there anywhere that doesn't use cover? Well, maybe it is in English, in British English as well. I guess my experience was from Australia. I knew. Maybe it's also that you need the accent to go with it as well. Yeah, that sounds great with Wednesday cuppa. Yeah, no thanks, Jay. So yeah, it's well, yeah, we'll see how that goes. I think I was sort of inspired by Theo Rivere's matinal stream. So he streams sort of a similar time, 1 hour in the mornings on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Unfortunately, all in French, although I'm sort of Google translating comments and watching where I can. Yeah, so we'll see how it goes. And yeah, today, what is the plan? So the plan is I'm going to look at, well, something I might try and do regularly is answer a question from the Design 100. Some of you had mentioned before, so I ran a blog, Design 100, and I never answered any of the questions. I just asked a lot of other designers to answer a question every week in 100 words or less. And what I might do is do one question each stream, and it'll, we'll get through it in half a year or something. There's about 50 odd questions. So that might be a bit interesting. You get my take, and also we can have a quick, review of the post and some of the really interesting answers that had been done before. And the main part, as you can probably see in the title, is that I'll be doing, well, I mean, in the digital world, you see the word post-mortem talked about in terms of digital games, which is sort of like looking back on a release and the kind of the story of that release and how it all went, and often sort of thinking, commercially, how did things go and things like that. But I thought I could use the same thing for postmortem in the tabletop space. So I'm going to do postmortem on Diesel Demolition Derby, which is just sitting behind me here, which was a game released in 2018 by Ludi Creations. It's a solo design from me, one that maybe not a lot of people have heard of. It's a smaller game, and we'll sort of stumble our way through it. I'd like to get into a regular way of doing them, and we're just going to be trying out a format to chat about it. I've got a bit of a structure, things to go through. I was looking through my so this is how disorganized I was, but I was just before the stream, I was digging out all my old design notebooks to try and find the earliest mentions of the game and to see what I would talk about, because I thought that'd be kind of cool to look at. And I always like going through old notebooks every now and then, because it's sort of amazing to kind of see what things you've been looking at. No, it is not one notebook per game. If I can put it here, you can see, well, yeah, they're just organized by time. So so yeah, it was just always, I would just fill a notebook. It would have everything in it. Hey, Aqua, how you going? Welcome, welcome. Yeah, so they're chronological essentially. There was some point I'm not sure how interesting it is, but there was a point where I switched to these silver line kind of like almost primary school rule sort of notebooks, but at different points. In fact, the one I'm going to be looking at today was just some random. I didn't have a consistent format essentially. And yeah, it's amazing. This is from, I think has ideas from 2013, I think, is where this game comes from originally. So even that was kind of interesting to search back and find the different references to things. So yeah, we're doing a postmortem into Diesel Demolition Derby. That will be most of the stream, I imagine. And then we'll just relax with a little bit of game playing. Maybe we'll do a Tiny Islands. Haven't done a Tiny Islands for a while, and maybe people can play along if they're interested. If anyone has interesting ideas about or suggestions about games that might be fun to play together at the end of a stream, I'm certainly up for that. Something just a bit of a kind of a wind down. But I know Ross does his marble runs. If we want to do marble runs, we could do marble runs. Although I don't know if I'm really set up at the moment to do that. Yeah, we'll see how we go. Manuel says, think these notebooks great. I use similar ones. Fancy notebooks make me nervous. I'm afraid to ruin them with doodles. Yeah, actually, I have been gifted a couple of small moleskin journals in my life. I'm trying to see whether I don't think any of them here. I've got like a little Lego one, like with a little Lego block on the front, and a few other ones, but I've never touched them. It's absolutely, yeah, it's true. I can't bear to touch them. I even used to have some bigger A4 size journals, like a bit more like art books, and like Michael Fox uses them, I think, that sort of size. But I found, because I'm not a very visual, I'm not a very artistic person, so as you can see, I'm not sure, it's basically just written notes. There's very few sort of diagrams or anything like that. So having these sort of lovely large art notebook things didn't make much sense, and yeah, I didn't use them. So yeah, I found that in the end, yeah, having something cheap, I like the colors, and having them smaller and easy to move around. But who knows? Maybe I'll swap again at some point. But yeah, I probably should keep to this because it's a lot easier to store them when they're all the same size. Anyway, nobody tuned into the stream to hear me talk about notebooks, I'm sure. As always, if you have any questions at any point during the stream, please drop them in the chat. Not necessarily about what I'm talking about. If you've got any random game design questions, queries, yeah, please ask away, and I will do my best to get to them either at the time or later in the stream. Yeah, and Robin says, I use A5 spiral bound, but must have squares. I dislike using anything else. Yeah, I think, yeah, I was more of a spiral bound person. So my earlier ones were, yeah, I mean, this is an A5 spiral bound as well. Yeah, because I like the idea that they could sit flat, when you're sort of at a table and you want to kind of take notes as you're playing. I didn't want to have to keep opening the book. But after a bit more time, I just got a bit annoyed that, I don't know, I would always be shoving them into a backpack or something, and the spirals got a bit annoying and sometimes would break. And so in the end, I was just like, oh, I'll just do the cheaper kind of notebooks. But yeah, and for me, I don't need squares or anything, because I'm just writing, so I just need notes. Robert says, I tried using notebooks but struggled to keep it up. Is there a benefit to having a pen paper record over a digital record? Well, it's funny you ask, because I'm kind of hybrid now, I suppose is the best way to describe it. I'm trying to bring up my so I use Notes on I'm on a Mac. It's just the note taking program that comes with a Mac, and I have a mess of stuff in it, but I have several game folders, and one is game ideas, where I will just jot down random ideas. And now, I don't know when I could probably find out when I really started using this, or sometime in 2018, I probably started writing random ideas more digitally. And if I'm working on an idea, if I'm trying to workshop a specific idea, I'll do it in a notebook. But I don't know if there's any real reason why one is better than the other. I think you just want to feel like that you can capture your thoughts, whatever that is. And I think for me, the more important thing is, with random ideas, I'm not so worried, because if I really want to look back on random ideas, I'll know to look in notebooks and on, I'll kind of look wherever I can. And in a way, it doesn't matter which ideas I find. I just want to find ideas, or I want to remind myself generally about what I was thinking before. But when I'm specifically developing a game, that's when it's much more important to be able to sort of to capture everything I'm thinking. So I have gone back to actually, as I playtest, to have my notebook in front of me, especially as now it's a lot more digital playtesting. With a lot more digital playtesting, it means that you're kind of like, you're on the computer, you're already doing stuff with Tabletop Simulator and other things. So I like actually having the analog notebook in front of me to kind of not interrupt, how I'm playing, but I can still take notes, and that's really important. I guess probably if some point I wanted to search for things, it's a lot easier to have a digital record, and I actually am not perfectly organized today. Like, I won't be able to get all the records to Diesel Demolition Derby out. I've only found a few, because obviously you can't search for it, but if in a digital thing you can search for it. So I think it depends. Sometimes when I'm developing with a publisher, sometimes digital is a little bit easier because they'll be sending emails, so I can kind of copy paste email stuff into the Notes app and then add my own thoughts and things like that. But yeah, it's I don't know if there's if it has to be one or the other. Basically, I think it's up to you. Robin's all about pencil. Yes, I guess I just use pens. that's just my thing. There's too many distractions, digital record keeping machines. Yeah, I think that, and that's probably why I mentioned the difference. When I have like a new idea, I'll just quickly note it down on digital, because often I'm on the computer already, so it's easy just to open up the app and quickly write something. But if I want to sort of really think about a new idea, develop it, to try to make the first prototype, for example, yeah, getting away from the computer is a good thing to do. Manuel also says compile his notes into a digital doc. I've started doing that, actually. I've started trying to do design documents when I'm starting out a game. It's worked okay. I haven't found a foolproof way of doing it. Jay, I found it's way better on paper, like new ideas that are digital is for editing. Yeah, I mean, I think with any of these things, I think just find whatever's comfortable for you. There's no one right way to any of this. Alex, I have Trello for my design work. Much harder to lose my notes on there. I have half a dozen notebooks when it's easy to run an idea, but never usually use them for long enough to remember where everything is. Yeah, I mean, I think I just have this kind of like one notebook system. Like, I have one active notebook, and when it's finished, I get a new one. So usually when I'm trying to look for an old note, it's in the current notebook because it's the most, relatively recent, but it's easy to look back if I really need to find something. I have been using Trello. So Arnold, Tiny Touch Tales, he uses Trello. So I've kind of been doing that with him. With Mandela, who's probably in chat, we sort of started on Trello with our co-design. We're not really using it. We're sort of more on Google Docs now. Yeah, I think I got used to kind of working however you have to work, depending on the collaborators and things like that. Nicola, for me, it's pretty much the manual says the current situation forced me to have more stuff digitally faster. But yeah, I guess it means that, yeah, if you're on the computer more often, it makes sense to take notes there. And manual sketches a lot, which is not easy to do on digital. Yeah. So that, I think that's also, for me, the difference is because I'm mostly writing. Actually, the fidelity of recording those ideas are roughly the same between the two. So I don't have too much of a preference. While on a phone or behind a screen, I always doodle. Perfect to have a note or sketchbook on the side. Yeah. I think just do what's comfortable. Nicholas says, having so much disparate stuff of such heterogeneous length and content in such static format made me eventually abandon notebooks as a principal medium. Okay, so I mean, it depends how, I mean, to be honest, I've never been very good at keeping to any system, so that's why I just do whatever makes sense at the time, and I try and keep things, and that's as best. I don't know if it sent you on a tangent, but I'm digging this note-taking talk. Well, we could be talking about note-taking. I think the other thing I'm really starting to realize with note-taking, at least that's quite important for me, is to have little. I try to put little headings even while I'm taking notes. My handwriting is utterly terrible, but hopefully you can see some here. I'm saying like to do, like rule change. And having these little like headings in my notes helps me when I go back. Here I have like a whole kind of list of to-dos, and these are notes taken during a playtest. It helps me because often, like in the playtest, I like to just be thinking about the game, and you think about what you want to change, etc. But then I often, when I finish a playtest, I can't keep working on the game. I need a break. I need to like get away from it. But the problem is then is like I will have forgotten a little bit when I go back to actually work and iterate on the game. So having these little headings and knowing, oh, I need to fix these bits, these specific bits, it helps me be much more efficient. Yeah, that's quite important. Say uses a live scribe pen. You write on paper, you can record as you go, both audio and the pen's movement to sync it to a computer and click into the notes to hear back thoughts. Selection. Wow. Okay, that sounds very cool. Yeah, I think I think with all of this, I think it's interesting. I'd say if you don't have a system that works well for you, or you feel like you're missing things, I would just try and digest as much information about what works for other people. Try different things, and hopefully that will be a way that you can find something that works for you. Oh, hey, not you again. Welcome, welcome. You've been keeping note cards nearby for years as primary. Yeah. Now my random note taking, or kind of like day to day, I use like old prototyped cards, which are like I just use as sort of like blank notes, and I now accumulate, which is not very good. So this all looks like a good system, but I then accumulate all these like written notes of mixtures of ideas and things that I have to do, and I try and condense it back down every week into a sort of more organized list. But yeah, I've fallen off the wagon a little bit in the holiday season, to be honest. Yeah, but yeah, is also struggling. Nicholas also struggling with finding a definitive solution, but at least getting closer. Yeah, I think sometimes you just got to try a lot of different things until something sticks. Also, ultimately, I think, don't worry about it too much. I kind of feel like, at least my personal opinion, especially with game ideas, is that I actually don't need the notes to remind me of the ideas I want to work on. I think in my head, like I'll hold on to an idea if it's a good one, if I feel like it's something that's like really something I want to do. It's not often that I'll have an idea and then I'll have to look back in the notes to remember it, and then I realize I wanted to work on it. In some ways, the notes that go, the ideas that go in the notebook, it's more just for kind of posterity's sake, or even it's actually even just the act of taking the note helps me think through the idea a little bit, not so much as a recall device. If it's an idea that I like, then I'll hold on to it. I won't need a note to remember it. Recently received a Kickstarter. There's a fancy wooden holder and custom thick note cards that have lists on one side and a dot grid on the back. It's called Analog by Ugmonk. Oh, that sounds very nice. Let's see, Analog by Ugmonk. What a name! Firstly, what a name. Let's have a look here. Oh yeah, this looks. Oh, this looks far too nice. I think I would just feel like I wouldn't do a very, like, I wouldn't want to write on them or something, maybe. But yeah, it is funny. It's not so different to my sort of leftover cards and things like that. It's funny. Hey Rob, how are you going? So did someone just get Matt sidetracked? Yes, I've been sidetracked for a little bit talking about note taking, but yeah, it's fine. It's all. There's a magnetic metal card that holds stacked down under it. Oh wow, okay, that all sounds rather lovely. Well, okay, well there's something to check out for other people if they're interested. Yeah. So with that, enough note taking. But if you have more note taking questions, just drop them in the chat. If I think of things, I'll get back to it. I'm still not perfect, and that is something I have to get better and better at. As I think as I have more projects that are like under active development, note taking is so important in terms of developing and iterating. That's, I think, the main thing that is something I really have to do. Great. So Design 100. I am going to answer a question, an old question. So for those who don't know, Design 100 was a blog that I created about a year and a half ago. And it was a blog where I would ask a question to a series of designers, and they had to answer in 100 words or less without seeing each other's answers. And then I'd collate them all into one post, and I'd post that once a week. I was really, really lucky to have an amazing set of contributors. All these wonderful folks. Bez, a lot of people know, obviously, Bruna Kathala, Phil Walker Harding, Theo was there, Tony. Doria Rustan was a former developer at Funforge. She was the developer on Citadel of Time, Professor Evil and Citadel of Time, and she's been doing some other kind of game-related projects since leaving Funforge. Carla Kopp from Weird Giraffe Games, was Hargrave, Brett, sort of thing. So, you know, I was really lucky to have all these, you know, amazing people who were happy to give time and would answer the question. And for me, what I was trying to think of is, you know, how can I assemble this amazing board game design information, but without necessarily making too much work for myself, and also trying to minimize the amount of work for the contributors. And so we actually had, in the Cambridge group, there was a sort of an earlier project called the Disagreeable Designers, where 6 of the Cambridge designers would do something similar. We'd have a question and we'd all answer it. And actually having a 100-word limit was really interesting because it just forced you. It never meant that it felt like you had to do that much work, you know, like it can't be more than 100 words, so it can't take you that long. So that worked quite well. And so I made this, and yeah, I was quite happy with how it went. As I said kind of before, when I look back on 2020, I sort of fell off the wagon. It kind of stopped in about April of 2020. Maybe it'll start up again, who knows? But yeah, so feel free to have a look, and we'll look through the blog post a little bit as well. But so the very first question was, number one, better. I wanted to be all fancy and have these one-word titles and things. But what is the one thing that tabletop games do better than any form of entertainment? And I'm going to try not to prepare these, so I'm basically just reading the question and then giving my very quick thoughts. I think for me it's interaction. Ultimately, I think. And that's not even necessarily the interaction that is in the game necessarily. You know, the interaction doesn't have to be driven by the game mechanics. It can be, in some ways, interaction is sort of provided by the fact that we have this communal activity to do together. And actually, while you're playing the game, you end up chatting to each other about something completely different. You know, it has nothing to do with the game you're playing. So I'm not, you know, I think it's a little bit of a fallacy that you need to put interaction in all your games. There's plenty of people who really enjoy games that have very little player interaction, but there's still interaction between the players while you're playing that, I think. You know, it's still a social kind of experience. So that for me is like the key thing. And I think, you know, sort of inherent, maybe the kind of corollary to that is choice. I don't think there are many other types of entertainment where you as a consumer actually have some choice or some agency over changing the experience that you have. And, you know, you get to do that in games, essentially, tabletop games. You know, you make choices, you make decisions, you chart out strategies and react to the other players. So it's, you know, I think that's quite unique, I guess. That would be my take. If anyone else has a different thought or how you'd answer, please put it in the chat and I'll highlight it. So what is the one thing the tabletop games do better than any other form of entertainment? I'll have to look, Alex, at there's some, are these kind of, what is Japanese notebooks? Okay, now I feel like I need to, I don't know, I'll have to, hold on, can I actually copy that tweet? Oh, here we go. For those who can't see it. Oh wow, that is quite amazing. Oh, that is really beautiful. I mean, and then isn't that great? Like that you have something left over. I wonder how like kind of reproducible it is in a way. Like if it actually stays. No. It's a nice tangent. It's a really beautiful thing. Yeah, I'll have to check them out. Yeah, Rob says multiplayer solitaire games can have great interaction as you hear each other muttering, groaning, or bragging. Yeah, it's funny like that. Tangents are the stream. Yes. Well, I mean, to be honest, I think that makes streaming, that's why for me streaming is so much more interesting than say giving a lecture or something, because, you know, I get a lot of energy by just, you know, interacting with chat, you know, rather than just feeling like I have to, you know, deliver a 30-minute screed on this game or the other. Yeah, the show would stay under an hour if we were all derailing that all the time. Well, that's why I've now officially, my newest my new pin tweet that has my thing. I call it the Board Game Design Variety Hour, as it seems like I think we've long past pretending that it'll ever be an hour. But yeah. Anyway, I could pre-record and post YouTube, but I wouldn't. That's the thing. I think who was it? I read somewhere something around streaming that just like the difference between those two things, like having a stream versus having, you know, making a video for YouTube. The fact is, like a stream, you don't have to prepare. Like you do prepare, but if I had to, it would feel much more like work if I had to produce a YouTube video and then upload it. Whereas this is actually quite enjoyable, and you still come up with a YouTube video at the end of it, which is funny. So yeah, no. Tangents are all fine. I just have to get better at. I need somebody who's like, you know, I need moderators I need some sort of internal like list of like. Now remind me what I was talking about 3 minutes ago before I was on a tangent. But yeah, so that is the Design 100. And yeah, had some interesting answers. Let's see, what did I highlight? I always had these like cut out highlighted quotes. So games lead people to take off the mask they have in their current life. From Bruno Cathala. True statement. Tabletop games can be enjoyed solo, in competition or cooperation with family, friends, or complete strangers, in complete silence or shouting, standing up, sitting down, and even in the dark. Nerea Casellas. Fantastic Spanish designer who knew from some might know from UK Games Expo. Her first game was published by WizKids. I'm actually blanking on it was sort of a Viking themed fighting game. Yeah, so that was a bit of fun. What did Brett say? I have to admit, Brett, like, is just. I was talking a little bit earlier about what I loved about best streams, getting people with different backgrounds. But for me, Brett is always. I loved his writing because he just always thinks a bit differently to everyone. Like, he's not your typical hobby board game designer, which and he's actually quite a great writer. Tabletops games are exposed engineering. They don't let us see their nuts and bolts. They let us touch them, rearrange them, change them. Yeah, that's what I was saying about kind of choice and interactivity. Tabletop games are never simply received, and unlike other forms of entertainment, they can't be passively consumed. They demand that we interact with them even before the game begins. In this sense, we're not merely entertained, we are empowered. Put that on a t-shirt somewhere. Yeah. Endless Pass, thank you. And yes, her partner Craig was who did all the illustrations. He's an amazing comic book illustrator. Yeah, he also did something in my box. Actually, I should. I have no idea where it is. I have my copy, but I don't know where it is. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's so impressive. But we've got some talk about tangents in the chat. Excellent. Tangents are true interaction. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I get off my my high horse and actually pretend that I'm interacting. I guess in streaming you have more improvising freedom to go in different directions. Well, yeah. I mean, I think you also get to make what people want. Like if you want to hear me talk about gorillas in hats for 15 minutes, then you can ask it, and I will do my best. But if I like that. I feel like there's a chance that you can actually, a bit like games, you can make the content you want or something like that. Do I have a high horse? I don't want to get on a horse. I'm not sure. I would not do well on a horse. Is the short point. Anyway, so that is we're 38 minutes in, and we're past the introductions and things like that. I was going to. What was the other thing I was going to say? Well, I sometimes talk about notes and news and things I've looked at. In response to Bez's stream about podcasts, I actually checked out quite a new podcast, which is called Fun Problems. And I guess those who watch Bez's stream probably saw that. It's hosted by one person I know quite well, a game designer called Peter C. Hayward, who is Australian, although he's lived in North America for quite some years now. And he's also he owns Jelly Bean Games, so he's a publisher as well. And he actually was also a contributor to the Design 100. But it's so it's him, and I'm just trying to find who else it is. Whoops. It's Peter C. Hayward and AJ Brandon. Let's see if I can find it here. And AJ is a sort of a fledgling board game designer, but also runs a retail store somewhere in North America. And I'm just trying to find podcasts. Here. Oh, we even had a thread that was announcing it on Board Game Geek. Or you can see it on iTunes, I guess. I don't know if it's going to pop up with. Yeah, here we go. So yeah, this is Fun Problems. They've only just started. They released. Oh, actually, it's not as sort of older than I thought. So the first post was in October, second one in December, and I've listened to all of the second one, and I'm halfway through the first one. Yeah, I think for me it's ticking a lot of boxes. Of quite enjoyable to listen to. Peter is sort of quite funny in terms of he's quite opinionated, but I guess that's what you want. That's what you want. You want people to say it how they think, and give their opinions on things. And I think they're really trying to look at some interesting topics. So would certainly recommend, and maybe we'll look at another time at more podcasts. I talked a little bit on an old stream about good board game design podcasts. So yeah, that would be my other kind of little note for the week to look at. Check out Bez's latest stream with Tamir and check out Fun Problems if you get a chance. So on to the meat of today. We will be doing a post-mortem of Diesel Demolition Derby. So probably the best way to start is to actually give a very quick overview of the game as it was published. Because that is probably, I assume, the easiest way for those who don't know the game, to have a little bit of idea of what's going on. So I will show the BGG page. So Diesel Demolition Derby, hopefully there are some images here, which is good. It's a small card game, and it's essentially one of these drafting and blind. Rob, you have your copy. Oh, thank you for supporting. You don't need to play along. You can have a look. You can reminisce on the thing. There's a small deck of cards, and you are drafting cards. Everyone chooses a card at the same time and then reveals it. And basically, these cards then essentially fight each other that you chose at the same time, and that might cause some of the cards that were chosen to be discarded. If your card survived the battle, then you keep it in front of you, and then you pass the hand of cards around. You draft another card, reveal it. You keep going until you've essentially drafted the whole set, which means I think you draft 4 cards essentially, and then you look at the total strength value of the cards that are remaining in front of you. So the ones that you chose but weren't discarded. So you can see that they each have these numbers here. They range from strengths go from 0 up to 4, and whoever has the highest strength has won the derby essentially. And then you get one little point chip in the Kickstarter edition, actually, which I think is the only edition of the game. They have these wonderful little metallic cog tokens, which I'm just trying to show here, like this. And basically, you've got to get 3 of these. So you've got to win 3 derbies. Whoever's the first to win 3 derbies wins the game. So it's a pretty fast, light, very interactive, somewhat chaotic card drafting game. And so that's the game. And basically, if anyone's got questions about the game or certain things, so I mean, the idea was basically a little bit about the design is that you would have lower strength cards would normally have more powerful abilities. So the way it would work is you would reveal all your cards and you would resolve abilities from highest strength down to lowest. And it was designed so that abilities that had the same strength could be always resolved simultaneously because they wouldn't get in the way of each other. So you didn't have any kind of turn order problems. It was kind of a true simultaneous drafting game. The 4s have a very high strength, so they're obviously really powerful to win the derby, but they're kind of fragile. They always came with sort of a disadvantage. So there were various ways in which you would have to discard a 4 card even without it being destroyed by some other player. You might do something to destroy it yourself. Whereas all the way down to the 0s were very powerful cards. In fact, some of the zeros, in fact, give you a different way to even win the derby. So that was the kind of thought process that went into the game. Aqua thinks, I thought designers were supposed to be bad at their own games. Muffled sounds of personal experience. I'm not too bad at this game, but it's a bit of it's a fairly chaotic experience. I don't know how good you can be because there's actually a lot of groupthink about the game. A very like maybe one of the key concepts or one of the cards that really best describes this is the Hunter card. And when I go back to the design, this card actually stayed pretty much from the very start of the design to ever. So the Hunter, for those who can see, is a 1, and it makes you discard all combatants to deploy this turn with the highest strength. So basically it means any other cards that were played at the same time with the highest strength are discarded if you play the Hunter. So like if I play this and 2 other players play a 4 each, then both of those 4s would be discarded. And basically a lot of the game was around like, there are a certain number of Hunters in the deck. You can see them as you're drafting them around. But do I want to pick, when I pick a Hunter, I hope my opponents have also chosen a high valued card. Even better, I want them both to have all had an equally high valued card so it can discard multiple cards. Because of course, if I play a 1 and then everyone else plays a 1, well, in fact, the Hunter will discard itself and, you won't have done anything. And of course, if you're not making other people discard cards, then it's only a 1. So it's not very good. So that kind of is the sort of the crux of the game. But of course, there's like a lot of cards that do different things. In the Kickstarter, like in the final version, there are also these arena cards, which I'm trying to find. Actually, might not even have them in here for some reason. So there were these arena cards that would kind of give a game-changing rule for each round. So maybe like 1s were worth 1 extra strength or something like that, to give a little bit of variety and have different sort of strategies round to round. So that's the game. So that's the sort of the introduction, so know what I'm talking about if you haven't heard of the game before. And so basically, I'm going to try and go through like 5 or 6 categories in this sort of postmortem. So the first is conception. Second is playtesting iteration. Third is pitching. Fourth is signing the game. Fifth is kind of the working with the publisher and the actually getting it published and that initial thing. And then 6 is kind of a post-mortem of actually looking back now on the game. It's been out for over 2 years. 2 years, I think. And, what do I think of it now? How did it go commercially? Things like this. So that's the kind of plan. I can't keep up with all this. Rob Designs game. Well, I'm glad that everyone's having some fun, some lighthearted fun, ribbing each other in the chat. If anyone's here that's not part of, we're all perfectly nice people, and you're very, very welcome. And you can please feel free to also ask a real question and interrupt these incessant, sounds of muffled violence people in not muffled violence, muffled designer chat in the chat. So let's go back to Inception. So what was I trying to do initially with the game? Action promises to be nice to people who aren't Robin accurate. Good idea. All questions are real. All right. Have I missed a question or something? No. Well, let me know if I missed a question. When looking back on my design, I found the earliest mention in my design diaries, and this was not my design diaries, in my notebooks, and this was 2013. No worries, Nicola. Have a good good luck with the errand. Maybe see you when I'm sure with the amount of tangents we've been having on the stream, I'll be here in another 3 hours, still trying to get through this post-mortem. So see you soon. I started trying to do a drafting character selection microgame. So I guess 2013 is a time, it was around Love Letter. I'm trying to think when Love Letter was actually released. Does anyone know the year that Love Letter came out? Anybody want to tell me? The year on Board Game Geek is 2012. So yeah, it was basically, 1 year after Love Letter had come out, or probably even less than that, realistically. So this was truly the microgame craze. And Brett had started up this Good Little Games site, which for those who aren't regular watchers of the stream, you should definitely know what Good Little Games is. It was a site for free print and play micro games, and they were all 18 cards or less. Actually, the original idea when I started, so these are Good Little Games. You can still actually have a look at them if you want. They're all still available online. The idea was actually to make a game that would fit onto this site. So I started with the idea it had to be an 18-card game, and that was basically it. So I just missed something. Rob's tempted to ask me how I prefer to keep notes for his game design. You have to look back at the first part of the stream. Yeah. Alex also asked, do I do much teaching? Do you mean in my job as a scientist? No, I don't actually. I did some supervisions for students, some sort of tutorials. But no, I do some lectures, but more like at conferences and things like that. Yeah, that's what I meant to do in terms of teaching. I supervise students, but I don't do formal teaching. Cambridge is a little bit weird. You have to be kind of like a fully tenured professor in order to lecture any of the students. They don't let any of the plebs do it, this sort of thing. So it started as this game, a drafting character selection microgame. That was my title for the game. So you can tell that I'm, it's a very, what's the word? I'm always very inventive with all my titles for my games. I'm just trying to, because I took a picture of the thing and I'm trying to find a way I can stop screen, share screen. If I do application. Okay, so this is, I've tried to, this, I wouldn't expect anyone to read this necessarily because you could see my handwriting is like a doctor's handwriting or something. But basically like, and maybe this is giving me a little, gives you a bit of a look into maybe how I start. For this game, I probably was it was starting with the limitations. It was like, if you're, drafting cards, how many what player counts can you do with 18 cards so that you all draft an equal number of cards? And so I was like, oh, okay, well, 2 players, you could have, 8 cards each and you'd have 2 cards left over. 3 players, you have 5 cards each. 4 players, you could even go up all the way to 5 players and have 3 cards each. And so, I sort of start, and interestingly, from the very start, you can see rounds are won. You win the round somehow, and you win 3 rounds to be the winner, or points maybe, which didn't happen. And choose a card, reveal it, and then pass the rest. So that's kind of it. The inception of the game was really the restrictions to kind of fit this microgame format, and I had the basic idea of drafting and revealing cards. I mean, that's not particularly novel at all, because obviously like Citadels is a good example, or any other drafting game. Fairy Tale is a really great example before this, especially of a game where you reveal there's interaction between the cards that you draft, and that's maybe the first little bit of not advice but something to remember, is that you don't your game doesn't have to be very new to start with. Don't think about, I have to make everything new. You can start from anywhere, and if you just have a mechanism you want and you're fitting it into a new set of constraints, that can be somewhere to start. And it seems that I didn't go very far from this idea, because there's that one page and then I have several pages before I even get back to it before. So this was a case of where I did just literally had an idea and just noted down a quick thought of like, well, this is how the cards could work. But I didn't necessarily immediately make a prototype. I probably thought about other things and but then it seemed unfortunately, there was no dates on this notebook. I tend to get a little bit better after this of dating all my entries, but these unfortunately were dated. They're sometime in 2013. And then I went back and I now, I had basically, I sat down and it looks like I had whole 2 pages, which I wrote, I guess a bit more detail as to what, and I actually started to think about, well, what cards could you start having in the game? So I have this like high value card. So I said you win the round if you control carries as the highest total, or if specified. So if you have a different ability. So it's interesting. Like actually, realistically, the game from the very start had the kind of structure that it ended up with. It was and I think that's the thing with these the smaller the game is and the simpler the game is, that, you know, there's kind of less wiggle room to iterate and change really core mechanisms. Either they work or they don't. And then it was just a question of, yeah, what abilities do you put on the cards? And, you know, it seems like I mathematically thought, okay, let's just make 3s the highest value and I won't give them any ability. That's how they are in the game. All the 3s have no ability at all. And yeah, I just started thinking up kind of cool things. You win the game if this is the only character you have at the end. So you have to somehow work out a way to make that work. This is the hunter, discard the highest character chosen this round. So, you know, I had it there from the start. And you know, it's sort of a rock, paper, scissors kind of thought, you know, like that's always a nice way to have interaction, to think about like, well, I have a 3 and that's really good. What can beat a 3? Okay, I can have this one hunter that will kill a 3. But then I need something that's better than the hunter, and that's maybe like a more powerful card, like a 2, which has this sort of minor power, but maybe isn't hunted by the hunter. But of course, the 3 beats the 2 because it has a higher strength. So when you have that basic rock, paper, scissors, you know, it's a good mode to have like interesting interaction, and you always have a couple of, you know, there are always a way to beat a strategy and to lose to a strategy. And in any of these kind of bluffing games, you always want, you know, and if, you know, you want a way to do one thing or another. You don't want there to only be one choice that players can sort of take. Robin says, was it mechanism, then mathematics, then theme? Yeah, so for me, theme, I haven't even, you'll notice I have not even talked about theme or then Lizard Spock. Yeah, so yeah, definitely, I mean, I wouldn't even say mechanism, I'd say limitation. That's how this design started, really. It was, I wanted to make a micro game. And then I went to a mechanism that could work. In this case, it's sort of a drafting micro game. And yeah, then I guess I developed those in together, which is kind of the mathematics, as you said. So it's trying, how do I fit this mechanism in this limitation? And now I would say this kind of talking about, when you're talking about card abilities, that's kind of content, you know, like, and of course in this type of game, you know, because it all stands on only about 18 cards, and the abilities of the cards are very important, especially when some of them don't, you know, some number of them don't even have any abilities at all. You know, I had one here worth 1 point for every 1 character you have, or you don't discard any characters this turn. I mean, I think this is one thing I am actually reasonably good at. You know, give me a kind of a system, and if you tell me to write down 20 different abilities, actually that's what I'm pretty good at. And, you know, maybe one stream I'll sort of go into thinking about, or talking about like how I think about this. I think with all of these, one thing is to think about like, what's an extreme case that I'd love to see a player do? I'm going to make a card that rewards them for that. So for example, I thought, well, how can I make it so that if you're so amazing at the game and none of your characters get discarded, well, I'll make a card that gets more powerful the more cards you have. You know, what if, you know, how can I protect against somebody attacking me? Okay, well, I have a defensive card. You don't discard any characters this turn. You know, how do I make combos interesting? How do I make a kind of a risk-reward thing? Well, you know, now I can have cards that you are quite powerful, but you have to discard them if you don't have another specific type of card. And it's just thinking about these different things, like, can I make a card that is so powerful that just wins you the game? Well, what restrictions do I have to be? Okay, maybe I say that it has to be the only card that you have, and then you can win. You know, how can you actually manufacture that? So yeah, it's interesting. It wasn't, you know, and like this sort of started there. It was not, you know, with these smaller games, as I said, you kind of either get it from the start or you don't. I mean, and the next time I haven't gone through all my notebooks, but I had a look at my prototypes, and I'll remove that. And where is this? So I can probably. True professional here. So this is basically the folder on my computer which has all the versions of the game. The first version is from like July 2013, and you can see, yeah, it's not so different. I made each of the strengths of the cards match a particular type. That was only just to help with the language of the game, so that you could specifically talk about cards of particular rank without saying like all cards of rank 0. You could just say like all incarnations. And the theme I came up with was some stupid elemental with some summoning elemental beings, and they, you know, have kind of cool names like the Obliviator and the Avenger and the Archon, but there was no real theme, realistically. And yeah, you can see the hunter is there, you know, as I said before, that kills the highest ranked person, and you have these sentinels, which I called them. That must be a bit of a typo. That should be a 3. And yeah, that's the 18 cards. And you know, the great thing about this game, realistically, is that it's so easy to make and prototype. 2 pages of cards. And I remember that actually at the Cambridge playtest, it was just really easy to put on the table. It takes, you know, it's really quick, and it really developed fairly quickly. I made 4 versions within basically the first few weeks of having the game. And, you know, there were just small sort of changes and small sort of, you know, I tried different abilities. I'm trying to think if I can see an ability that changed. Maybe not. Maybe, do I have the illusionist there, for example? Yeah, I mean, you know, that you know, it kind of developed fairly quickly. No worries, Simon. Thanks very much for coming by. Then the next version was like making a little bit slightly prettier. You know, I added some colors to the numbers, something like that. You know, but not too much. And this, I think, was an attempt to try and show like how many of each card were in the game. I think this is maybe a time where I tried to do higher player counts or something like that. So this is kind of the iteration playtesting point of the game. I was still sort of, you know, looking at new cards and thinking about that. But realistically, like, not that much longer. I'm trying to find, you know, I had some rules. The first rules document was in actually 2013, which is actually pretty early, you know. So actually within about a month from, or, you know, a few months from starting the game, I had the rules. And that for me is usually a good sign of when, like, I'm starting to get, not to the end of iteration, but I'm starting to think about, oh, this might be in a version I could pitch to someone. And I guess in terms of like iterating and playtesting for this particular postmortem, it's not the most important part of the story in a way, because actually I was pretty much on the right track from the start, and the kind of way of playing didn't change very much. It was just all about how do you, what exact mix of abilities you have, and this sort of thing. I also don't actually know at what point I decided that that it wouldn't be a good little game. And I think there was probably a point where I basically said, okay, I don't actually need to make it an 18 card game. I'm just trying to find, yeah. So even this version, by November, I already have 22 cards. So I think probably that was probably one of the main choices I made. It's like, okay, I've decided, I actually think this game is interesting enough. You know, I'm going to try and pitch it to publishers. I don't have to be constrained by the 18 cards anymore. I'd still like a small number of cards, but the problem with 18 cards was that realistically, the game was only really good at 3 players when you could draft 5 cards each. But, you know, when you were only drafting 4 cards and you didn't actually get any choice of the last card, the nice thing was in a 3-player game is you draft 4 cards each, and you'd sort of like you'd discard the last card. You wouldn't automatically get it, because it was always a little bit weird that you would get this card at the end and it might do something, it might not. It felt a bit random, really. So yeah, that was one thing, and it meant that I could have like a sort of a higher play count. And I'm just trying to see here. Yeah, it meant I could go from like, you know, a 3 to 5 player game, and it kind of played well even at 5 players. You know, you just add more cards to the deck. And the other thing, of course, is that meant that you just had to have a certain number of cards of each rank, so that was sort of balanced. But it meant you got a little bit of variety as you kind of swap them in from round to round. Yeah, so I guess that's the kind of the playtesting iteration part of the game. Alex said, I've really struggled to make something this small play with interesting decisions. Yeah, I mean, I guess I leaned on a pretty well-known formula. You know, draft a card, reveal it, have it do things that interact with each other based on their choices. So I didn't see you, Bass. Enjoy your meal. But yeah, I think that can be, if you're feeling kind of stuck with these kind of ideas, I'd recommend just grabbing a mechanism or like a thing of interaction that you know works in other games, and just try and shrink it, but keep the kind of core of it, because you'll inevitably change the idea quite a bit as you develop the game and iterate. But it can be kind of a good shortcut to get something interesting if you're kind of leaning on, if you know this thing is interesting because of other games. Oh, yeah, should drink. I'll just check that I didn't miss anything on. No, sorry. Yeah, so, I mean, the next thing is pitching. And unfortunately, I've actually lost my notes. Well, sorry, I haven't lost my notes. This game kind of predates, at least it predates the current version of my spreadsheet where I track all the submissions that we do when we pitch to publishers. But it looks like I pretty much started pitching the game probably at, I would say probably at Nuremberg in 2014, because I see an email where I was looking at, or maybe I didn't go to Nuremberg in 2014, but I was emailing somebody about it. I think I, probably showed people at various times. I went to Gen Con for the first time in 2014. I was probably showing some publishers there. And the interesting, I mean, the kind of the end point of this was signing it to Ludi Creations, but that was only in 2016. So actually, there was sort of a 2-year period. So I started designing late 2013. The game was kind of finished early 2014. But there was a good period of 2 years where I was sort of pitching the game. And I'm actually trying to find some, I guess, some feedback emails to see if there would be any kind of interesting points from that, because it's been a bit before the time where I could really remember. I think it was always, there was another game called Brave Rats that was also another Japanese microgame that had come out and had been published. I'm not sure it was picked up for the US distribution, but it was also kind of interactive, revealing cards, with special abilities. So it was, I think there was a bit of competition. There were slightly similar games. Yeah, Robin says, how many publishers do you think you went through over the 2 years? It's a bit of a hard question because I don't have that date, but I imagine it's in that kind of normal 10 to 12 publishers kind of range. I've got things where I pitched it to Yellow, I pitched it to Pegasus, I pitched it to AEG. I even pitched it to Daniel Solis actually to see whether he wanted to do it. He used to publish games under this sort of Smart Play Games label, things like that, and he'd do it as print on demand through drive-through cards and things like this. So yeah, it was probably around the 10 people, and I think most of the reactions, I think for that kind of game, the difficulty was the sort of the form factor. Even by that point, I think the micro game kind of thing was starting to fade a little bit. And even Yellow with their mini game line, because they had these mini games, which are kind of still going today, but they're not doing many of them anymore. They were publishing 2 or 3 a year. I think there was already seeing that not every game was going to be like Love Letter, and that publishers were really a little bit more reticent. And I think that's a bit of a reflection on chasing a trend. You got to remember, once a game is, if you're trying to follow a trend of a game that was released 1 year before, and remember when you publish it, a game that's published probably was signed at least 1 or maybe 2 years before that, and you have to then develop the game. So there's kind of this lag of 2 to 3 years. So really, by the time that the game would have been published, it's 3 years after Love Letter. Was microgames still going to be an interesting kind of genre? And I think most publishers thought not, actually, and they were kind of right, because there definitely were some microgames, and they still pop up and different things, but obviously nothing kind of reached Love Letter status, and it's not kind of like Roll and Writes, which have really, I guess, are kind of here to stay, I think, no matter how many of them are done. So yeah, and I think the other thing with pitching is that just over time you sort of pitch to more publishers, and this is a good point. I think Ludi Creations, so they're a Finnish-based publisher, and I'm not sure when they started, but I'm not sure, they weren't that old when we were pitching to them. Probably when I was originally pitching the game, Ludi Creations wasn't one of the publishers I was pitching to start with. Sometimes in your head you have a little bit of an idea of which publishers you want to work with first, and I guess the bigger ones that more of, you kind of have a higher priority, only because you just naively know them better. But yeah, I think it got to a point in 2016, at Essen 2016, Heracles at Ludi Creations was always really kind to us, Brett and I. and he was just interested in seeing anything. And I had, again, I think it was, I've said before, it's just about, you know, holding on, you know, carry around games and prototypes. You never know when you'll fit a good point. And Rob has said, yeah, really, exactly. I managed to hit them at the right time when they were making a lot of small box games. I think they'd made Cabbage, like little Cabbage Head. They definitely made Dave Mortimer's what's it called? Game directory. Pocket Imperium, which ironically they published Pocket Imperium from David Mortimer, and that was originally also a good little game on the site, actually, interestingly enough, which was later picked up. So, you know, it was funny. Like I was sort of saying, it was hard to sell because some other publishers saw that kind of like line of micro games was kind of over, but Ludicreations was interested, and I, you know, got them at the right time. Oh, it's funny, Robin. You had a meeting with Heracles 2016. I remember you had the meeting after. Well, there you go. That was, yeah, it was a successful meeting. Yeah, he really liked it immediately when he saw it, and he, you know, he placed us with his crew, but then quite quickly, yeah, they decided to publish it. So that was, you know, I think the takeaway from that is that I think sometimes smaller games are Heracles June Desert Plant, yeah. That really is his name, Heracles. Yeah, yeah. I really love small box games as well. Like for me that this isn't exactly like, I think probably this game is a bit more interactive than the type of games I really like to play. You know, I like kind of building games, strategic games. But this is definitely a mix of like bluffing and tactics and things like that. Yeah, Rob, these are also some great games by Ludicreations. Long Live the Queen, Myth. Then we held hands, which you know, did pretty well. I think, you know, it was one of these early, almost like Fog of Love type of games before Fog of Love came out. It was sort of about like a conversation between two lovers, or you had to sort of balance your emotions with respect to each other. Yeah, but it's the kind of format I really like, and Heracles really likes too. And yeah, so they signed the game, and yeah, that's the end of the kind of signing session. So yeah, the point is, it's just being persistent. And even when a game doesn't fit for a particular publisher with their particular line, or they're not looking for that type of games, it doesn't mean that all publishers aren't looking for it. And sometimes it's just persistence or endurance, and you find someone eventually who, for them, it really speaks to them and they really like it. And Heracles really did enjoy it. And actually, he enjoyed it so much that, like, sort of the next part, looking at the game, is kind of the development and heading towards publishing, was that he really wanted to be able to go to 6 players, and he just really wanted more cards, actually, because for him, you know, he wasn't, because in that size box, there wasn't much of a difference between, I say, having 20 odd cards and having 50 odd cards, because a deck of cards is, you know, about 55 cards usually on a print sheet, or 60. So the kind of work that I had to do in development with Ludicreations was basically just to make more cards. And actually that was a nice thing, because it meant there was actually more variety in the game, and you kind of swap things in and out. Actually, one of the sort of sad things, or like actually, and this is more getting to the, I guess really the post-mortem part of things, and what I would do differently if I did it again, was that basically you have more variance in game. Like, I'm trying to think. That you don't have much, like the game stayed fairly constant for like 2 and 3 players, that you would, in the rules as written, you'd have these 17 cards and you'd use a selection of them in each round. But you would only use the much greater pool of cards in higher player counts and kind of bring them in and out. And I wish that I'd put in the rules that actually you would, actually use the whole set of cards and use a selection even in the lower player count games. Or at least make that an option, so that it feels like you could. Oh, actually, no, we did put it in the game. Oh well, oh yeah, well there you go. This was actually, it was interesting during the. So the game was eventually kickstarted, which I suppose I can show here. And oh well, there you go. Apparently, you can play it on Tabletopia. Oh, that's cool. Okay, so there's a lot of games there. So it was kickstarted in 2017. And, you know, I think it did pretty well. Like, you know, it raised about $26,000 and there were about 800 backers. it's not big numbers, but Ludi Creations had a very like they have a very like core audience who I think follow most of their Kickstarters. Heracles is not interested in making really, really big Kickstarters necessarily, and they really wanted them to go into distribution as well. It's not sort of a one and done thing. And it was interesting. I just was talking about this idea. I wish that, you know, in these smaller player counts, you would swap more cards in and out. And it turns out that actually that was something that changed through the Kickstarter, because Rado had this variant where you would do exactly as I say, like where a smaller number of players, you would use not all the cards, but just subsection of them, and they would be chosen randomly. So yeah, it can actually sort of develop through the Kickstarter. Is a good example of that. And the theme all came from Ludi Creations, basically. They saw this kind of mix, you know, this sort of like Robot Wars almost type of theme, and which definitely fit, I think, really well. And they imagined, and they made an amazing product. Like, I think the art is really fantastic. You know, the mechs all look great. I think it was like a fun sort of Kickstarter page. I think the kind of like, you know, like grungy sort of look is really great. You know, there's a lot, you know, there's like a lot of text on cards. I don't know if there was maybe a way that we could have done that iconography, like with icons instead, and maybe made it, you know, a bit more language independent. But overall, I think it's, you know, I think it's and it's still one of those small games, you know, like it's just a deck of cards, you know, a few tokens which you don't really need. They're just to track your score realistically. You know, they even had really fun things in the finished product of where you know, they made it look like an arena almost, like in the box, like the inside of the box had like this printed like vault that was opening, you know, to have the battle in, as you know. So I don't really have, you know, I think the main work was obviously just making more of those cards. I think the difficulty with that was that, you know, I probably had used most of the simple ideas. There's not a lot of things in the game that not a lot of knobs that you can turn. See you, Robin. Yeah, see you in a bit. So I think making those newer cards was a bit more difficult because they inevitably become a bit more complicated because you just need something new. And usually, if you've used all the simple things, then you've only got more complicated things left. Alex says, which game of yours was changed most by a publisher? Have you turned down an offer because of the plan changes? I think Monumental was probably changed the most by a publisher, but that was very much in collaboration with, like, I mean, it wasn't changed by the publisher. It was sort of changed with the publisher, and the publisher wanted it to go in a particular direction. Monumental was originally just a card game, and of course now it's this huge, you know, the miniatures and a map and everything. So I'd say that that's the most sort of changed thing. Have I turned down an offer because of the plan changes? No, I've never. In fact, I've never turned down an offer for publication, actually. The only time I have is when I've had multiple publishers interested in publishing a game at the same time, and I've essentially chosen one to go with, so I turned down the other offers, obviously. No, I've never had that problem. There's currently a game that we're sort of that I'm negotiating the contract for, and the publisher has a few strange requests about development, actually, where they're requiring us as authors to be, I'm trying to think of what the really good way to put it is. Basically, that there are these kind of like development milestones that we have to hit as authors, and if we don't hit them, then they don't have to publish the game. And I think it's the first time that I've ever had a contract which has it kind of worded like that. Normally what will happen is if a publisher isn't confident or doesn't kind of want to fully sign a game and they think it needs to be developed, they just won't sign a contract. They'll just give the game back to you and ask you to develop it more. And then you might do the work and give it back to them, and they go, oh yeah, great, okay, let's sign it. It's very strange. I find it quite strange to sign a contract where it can be kind of like reneged upon if for whatever reason, like, it isn't developed in the right direction. And also the other thing, it's very hard to define that because, like, you know, we don't know exactly what it should be. You know, like, you can have some goals for development, but who knows? You know, it's just a very strange thing to have in a contract, because how is it measurable, really, like, that you've achieved a certain quality of development or anything? So yeah, that's the thing right now, is that we've sort of pushed back on that, and I hope that the publisher will sort of reconsider that and not have it part of the contract. The other thing is that it's a publisher that both of us have worked with before. Hopefully there's a bit of trust there. Yeah. Anyway, so that's the only sort of time I sort of push back, and sometimes there'll be also different clauses in a contract that we'll give feedback on, or that we prefer something different, but it's not necessarily that we're like refusing the contract. It's just like it's a discussion. It's talking about different conditions and things like that. So the Kickstarter went well. Not huge, but quite well. I'm really happy. The production of the product in the end, I think, is really lovely. We made the in the normal kind of Kickstarter tradition, we made the arenas, which are these kind of like turn-based abilities. That was something specifically as a kind of it was meant as a Kickstarter extra, so you could have like a basic edition with the arenas, or you could have a deluxe edition. Like the arenas were basically like an add-on almost in the campaign. They were. I think it was a good idea. I think having a little bit of variety is nice. I haven't actually played the game that much at all since with the published edition. Maybe I've played it once or twice. I think the tricky thing is it's like a minimum of 3 players. So I haven't actually experienced the arenas too much outside of like the playtesting we did around the Kickstarter. But so that's kind of the main, I guess, the stuff about the publishing, I would say. And then the final thing to sort of talk about a little bit is the like looking back now, 2 years later. If we look on Board Game Geek, it has an average rating of 6, which is not great. It's not terrible, but it's not particularly good. It doesn't have a whole lot of ratings or comments. So if you think that there are about 800 backers of the game, for example, I don't know what the normal kind of like ratio of backers to people who might rate it on Board Game Geek. It got not a great review from Z Garcia, which is a bit sad actually, because I like to think that I actually really, of all the kind of Dice Tower folk, I think not necessarily my design principles, but even the games I like to play are most aligned with Z. He's been a big fan of Relic Runners and Elysium, and quite a few of my games. And I think this is one of those things that I said before, that I think I like to make games that are like quite different. It's not if you play one of my games, just because you might have liked a few of my other ones doesn't mean you're going to like this one, because I really do just make a lot of different types of games. So I think that was a bit of the case. This is quite different. It's quite chaotic. There's a few. He did really identify a problem, which and it's one of these things like where you develop game, like it was never, for me, the game shined at like 3 and 4 players, and in the end we made a game that could go up to 6 players, which I think is good. It's more chaotic and it's fun, and it kind of suits that. But the way the game works, because you have to get to 3 wins, it just means with 6 players the game just takes longer, because there's a smaller chance that any one particular person is going to win in a short period of time or win 3 rounds quickly, and that just means the game's longer than it should be. And I think that's something that Z definitely picked up on. And if I'd done it again, I think finding a way to essentially give more points to players, or like even first and second both get a point in the in 6-player game, just to try and keep the number of rounds about the same as the shorter player counts, because it's meant to be a short game, and I think if it gets too long, then that's a bit of a problem. No worries. Thanks, Noe. Thanks for joining, and enjoy the rest of your day. Manuel says Z seems the most likely to try something new, innovative. Yeah, I think he. For example, I don't think Tom is that bad. Like he tries a lot of things as well. I love that Z will try a lot of these smaller, say like Taiwanese or Japanese designs, which is really great. And I think the kind of like card combo kind of thing, which is one of my favorite types of games, I think aligns very much with the games that Z likes. But anyway, I mean those are the kind of the big reviews, I guess. I'm trying to see, maybe we'll see if there are other reviews. Yeah, so this is the one from Z, but there weren't a lot of reviews, and I mean this is the thing sometimes that it's just it's just hard to get reviews, and with when it's not not a a big Kickstarter, obviously there's a lot of buzz maybe around the Kickstarter, but when it comes out 6 months later, then it's not noticed as much. So yeah. Manuel says, I mean, the others seem more attracted to hype and their personal preferences. Yeah. I stopped watching the Dice Tower. Yeah, I mean, I don't have too much of a problem with the Dice Tower. And I still, I mean, for me, it's just a really great, just a great resource, actually, to sort of keep up. It, like, for me, it's one of the quickest ways to just quickly look at a game and see, how does it play, how does it work. So for me, it's almost just like I'm not so worried about the review, although I think that can be interesting. And I find Z's still very interesting. Just kind of, I think he goes through his thoughts quite well in terms of thinking about the different aspects of a design and how he feels about it. But yeah, I don't worry too much on the review side. But I do, you can't ignore it though, because obviously, like as a designer, you can't ignore the kind of impact it can have because so many people watch the Dice Tower videos. So. Alex asked, do I ever approach reviewers? No. I'm trying to think. No, not really. Sometimes reviewers will reach out to me, ask if I have a copy of a game or for an interview or anything. I'm usually very happy to interact with reviewers like that. But no, it's usually through, publishers do that work. And I don't see a reason to be sort of reaching out very straightforwardly. I said, Z gets given all the small card games and odd stuff. I tend to agree with his opinion in general, which is useful. Yeah. Well, I mean, and yeah, I would agree with that broadly as well. Nicholas, in some instances, I've been suspicious about whether they had played the game at all, which is a shame. I like Z's review point system though. Yeah. I think it's tricky. I think it's tricky to get through that number of games and to really play games as many times. But ultimately, like, I think, we can all choose to watch what we want, and reviewers can choose to review how they want. And obviously, they have a huge audience that likes what they do, so I can't say anything wrong. And sure, that's also something you have to get used to as a designer. There's going to be times when reviewers make a mistake in the rules for your game, and that has a negative impact on the review. But that just happens. There's not much you can do about that. I liked actually one of the nice things, and huge props to Peter for this, Peter Hayward. In the Fun Problems podcast, he mentions Dan Thoreau, Space Biff, who was one of my favorite reviewers. I think we have very, very different tastes, and so and he has given me a negative review, I think, on 2 of the games only. Yeah, he's reviewed 2 of my games, both of them being negative. And Peter said also in the podcast that Dan is one of his favorite reviewers. But he reviewed one of his games, got a rule wrong, then really disliked the game. And, Peter, hats off to him. He's sort of like, but he's still my favorite reviewer. I love the way he writes. You just have to accept that's just going to happen. That's accidents happen. We're not all perfect. And yeah, and that's also saying that maybe there could be better things in terms of writing the rules or whatever. But you just have to, it's just part of the gig, and you take the good with the bad. Sometimes you're going to feel that like a reviewer is really like evangelizing your game, and sometimes you go like, it's not that good. Like, I mean, I think I can think of these other games which are just as good, but you don't talk about them. So sometimes you benefited from, sometimes you're disadvantaged from it. I don't think you can't get too hung up on that. There's no and it's something you can't control as well. So yeah, so it suffice to say, I mean, the game was not a huge commercial success. We never sold a lot of copies past the Kickstarter, and it didn't make me rich. And I would say probably it sold in the like 1,000 to 2,000 kind of copies range, and the earnings were somewhere 1,500 euros or something like that. For a small game that didn't take me very long to design, realistically, that's not too bad. And I think with these smaller games, it's hard for them to really like, especially it is a bit of a niche. It's not like a gateway game, but it's very light and chaotic, but still with sometimes quite complex interactions between the cards, which I like. It was certainly a game that made towards my own sensibilities. So looking back, I'm still quite proud of it. It's I guess my entry in a genre that is you know, it almost feels like it's a type of game that every designer tries to make at some point. You know, like a blind drafting game, or like we all choose a card and reveal it. Whether it's drafting or you have a hand of cards, we all have the same hand of cards. We choose one to play. You know, there's lots of games in that genre, and I think it is a really good thing to try as a designer. I think it's a great exercise. I don't know how easy it is to publish new ones now because there are just already so many games like that. But you know, I'm glad that I'm happy with my kind of spin on it, and I stand by it. And I don't play it very often. I haven't played the game for many years. Certainly, I think I've only played even a published version once, which is a bit of a pity. As you can see, as I found out when I opened the box, that I didn't even realize that the arenas weren't in there. I don't know where they are actually. But I guess like looking back, also sort of things like experience with the publisher, working with Ludwig Creations was really great. I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, it's going to be something as we get with streams and things. If I'm going to really be, I don't really want to be bad mouthing publishers. I guess maybe giving critiques, helpful, critical feedback or something like that. But you know, the interaction with Ludwig Creations actually was really positive. They kept me involved with a lot of the decisions. I could see they were on Basecamp, and you know, when they were looking at illustrations, I could give comments where I wanted to. I didn't have to on all aspects of the design. They were really supportive of working with me on development, and it was overall like a really positive experience. Very professionally run Kickstarter. You know, not really any stress from my point of view. So you know, from all of that, I think it's a positive experience. But you know, it's hard to believe that the game's only, well, I guess it was 2017, but maybe that was, I think it was probably received by backers in 2018. But you know, it's like 3 years ago, and 3 years in board games is a lifetime. So yeah, I don't think many people have heard of the game anymore. Would I try and sell it to another publisher someday or rework it? Maybe, but I'm not sure. I think my kind of tastes have moved on a little bit. I'm not that interested in the micro game. I mean, I'm interested in micro games in a way, but not in a sort of a publishing them in this kind of format, in this kind of like normal distribution model. I think I'm much more interested in like print and play micro games or things like that, or alternative. I saw also a really cool. Let me find this. I'm not sure if anybody saw this. There's this. Oh gosh. Board games vending machine in Singapore. Let's see this. This was in some design center that basically, you know, you could just order board games in a vending machine, which I think is super, super cool. And I think something like small micro games could work for that. I think would be really cool as well. So who knows? But or even like the kind of the oh yeah, you're right. I mean, it does have a vending machine for their games. Yeah, that's right. And also, I guess when you look at maybe like Keyforge decks can be made for this, you know, you can make a booster and sell it for however much they sell, like £9 or something. Maybe there's ways to make games very cheaply now. But anyway, so yeah, I think that's kind of most of the post-mortem I wanted to do. Oh, thanks, Nicola, that you'd like to play it. Yeah, I think, well, try it out on Tabletopia. So anyone can try out the game. It's a fun, actually also, I guess we didn't, it's funny because hold on. It is 2 to 6 players. I'm just trying to look back on the Board Game Geek page. Yeah, it is 2 to 6. It's actually not a bad 2-player game. I kept saying 3. I think I was saying 3 players because that was the original prototype. But in the 2-player version, you just choose 2 cards at once, which is quite fun. And then you can have combos between the 2 cards you pick. So it's a nice kind of twist on it. But yeah, but definitely worth trying out if you're interested in it. Manuel says, and the Exploding Kittens team has a fake vending machine which is operated by people and does skits when they hand out the game. Yeah, I think I've seen, and maybe even also the the potato, Happy Potato? No, what are they called? Big Potato. Did they ever have something? Maybe, I can't remember if I saw something as well, maybe at one of the conventions. Yeah, but Oh, they delivered in December 2017. So yeah, it was a really quick. I mean, they were very professional. I mean, I think it was all planned, to make sure it would, that they were shipping a lot of things together. And no, it was just generally really well done. And we hopefully there will be some more games with Ludicrations from me in the future. A few things have been delayed, but we're still working with each other. So that's the hope going forward. Yeah, so I guess that's the first post-mortem for the channel. Hope it was interesting. And yeah, I don't know if you want to vote for if there's a particular game you'd want a post-mortem on, do let me know in the chat or message me on Twitter on something, or maybe I'll have a poll set up somewhere about people can choose what game they'd like me to do a post-mortem of next, so we can see how that goes. But yeah, that's unfortunately did not design that game, so I don't know how this is. I have actually played Teo Tuacan. So it's funny because there's a Mexican game designer, part of the Cambridge group, who obviously knows how to say Teo Tuacan properly, but I can never remember how to say it properly. Yeah, you just wanted to make me say it. Okay. I mean, I probably did a terrible job, but it's okay. It's okay. I don't really see a need to play it again, I think. So where are we at? An hour and a half. Don't know how these people do like 3-hour streams. I mean, it must be a little bit. I need to probably drink a bit more water, I think. I'm not very good at keeping hydrated. Everyone else should be drinking if you're not drinking. That's good. So yeah, I might well, if anyone's got any questions, do let me know, but maybe I might relax with not that it wasn't already relaxing chatting about post-mortem, but it's a bit more sort of focused, but I might try some maybe some tiny islands. If you want to play along, we can just do the daily shuffle. See, Alex, thanks for dropping by. Yeah, definitely. I'd love to see the post-mortem. I remember you did a bit of a Twitter thread, didn't you, Manuel, or something? I seem to remember you already did a little bit of a recap of it, which is interesting. What was this? Through good streams and bad streams from now until the joke gets older, I promise to help you make people say Teo Tuacan. Excellent. Thanks, Rob. Thanks all. Yeah, so those who want to hang around, we will do a little bit of Tiny Islands. Jay asked, do you keep a list of publishers for each game that you have pitched? Yes. So yeah, I didn't have it in this one because I think at some point from between 2014 and now, I switched where the spreadsheet was, and I think I lost some data actually. But I do have. I'll just stop sharing this for a sec. I do have a sheet, like a spreadsheet, where I have a sort of a matrix. So this is where I have all the games that I'm pitching along here, and these are all the publishers. And I put something in the cell if to show that I pitched Good Little Ninjas to Ankama at UK Games Expo 2018. And this just reminds me, what happened. I sent them a print and play, for example. So yeah, I keep it all in a Google spreadsheet. If that makes sense. Bye, Rob. Oh yeah, enjoy the kitchen. Yeah, I saw your tweet about Number Station. So I hope the progress is going well, Robert. But yeah, nice. Thanks for dropping by. Robin's back. We can only have one Rob. So we lose one Rob and we get the other Rob. So yeah, we've reached the Rob quorum. We're still remaining Rob quorate. So I've finished the post-mortem. And now we do some Tiny Islands. So if anyone wants to play along, you can just do the daily shuffle. And I'll get rid of that. We just lost a Rob and only got a Rumbly. Are you Robin Lees? Are you Rumbly? Is that your new? Is that how it's best to kind of differentiate between all the Robs? Yeah. Oh, I'm glad that's useful, Jay. Yeah, I think for me it's just I just use a matrix, and it's quite easy to kind of like add new rows for new publishers and add new columns, and you kind of keep all the data that you already had there. And I have a bit of color coding just to remind me of certain things, but it's definitely quite invaluable. And I try to be good at updating it as quickly after conventions and things like that, because otherwise you do forget things, and you come back a year later and you forget, oh, did I pitch this game to this person or whatever. It's the first you've heard of Rumbly. Okay. Michael started Rumbly. Okay. Okay. Well, that's fine. You're still Robin to me. Great. So so I'll give people a few minutes if you want to load up your Tiny Islands daily shuffle if you want. Completely up to you. Otherwise, is everyone back at work today, or wonderful plans or anything like that? Talk amongst yourselves. Manuel's back at work. Excellent. But I guess, is that still sort of remote, or is everyone still kind of remotely working, or actually have to go back to offices or things like this? I'm still, I'm back at work, but still looking at the same four walls. So nothing much has changed between this and Christmas holiday in a way. It's a different kind of year, certainly. Oh, yes. Oh, okay. No, thanks for lurking, bro. Going to run into some trees with a bike in a little bit. Oh, that's true. Well, maybe we'll come and raid you if you're still going, or if the timing works out. Not sure how Tiny Islands works eating too. Being remote. Manuel's been remote since March. Still acting as the first lockdown never ended. Yeah, something like. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. So, yeah, no, I think that has really been the one. Well, one of the many blessings actually I've had is that that I've had a sort of a stable job and that I could keep working remotely. So I've been really fortunate. So let's do some Tiny Islands. I'll sort of walk through the rules as I'm sort of talking, rather than sort of, if anyone doesn't know, but you can just Google Tiny Islands. Let's go. So lots and lots of trees. So trees like to be in a big clump all together. So I'll just put some trees in the middle, I guess. Houses like variety, and the shore likes to be near an island. Getting an early shore can be good because you can kind of plan for it and put I'm playing the daily challenge, Jay, because you get a point for every coastline around the shore. So if you put it down early, then when you draw the island, you can draw it around it. We have some more trees, which I feel like I will keep trying to build up. More shore or houses. Well, we can put having houses next to a bit of next to the shore could be good. And actually, we're in a bit of luck. Oh, it's a tricky decision. Do I make my tree area a bit bigger, or do I put my first church on this island? I actually think getting this church on this island will be good. We can build it up from there. Okay, well I guess we're in on trees. So waves want to be. Let's go with some coast here, and we'll plan to put sort of an island around these trees. It's probably not a bad spot. I don't know if I want those houses all the way over there. I think let's have some waves. The link is Tiny Islands. So it's there in the link now in chat. And you just choose daily daily shuffle or whatever that is. So yeah, I'll put some waves over here because I think we're going to be in the water in that direction. Excellent. Some more trees. Okay, so we've got our first island. So I think I'll do this one up here because I know that I definitely want to go around this bit of shore. And then there's just a question of how big do I want this island to actually be. Maybe... Well, I want enough flexibility around the trees, I guess. I'll give it a bit more room. Something like that. Maybe I'm not going to be doing many... I haven't seen many ships this game yet. So we can't have multiple churches on the same island. It's a pretty good place for some shore here, though, because that's an easy couple of points. So I'll take that. Oh, not great spot for mountains, but at least this mountain. You need mountains next to be near. Mountains need to be near forest. So yeah, this is going to be a better mountain. For example, our first ships. I think ships are going to be very good. Yeah, but I'll take some more houses. It's good. Could have even more houses. Yeah, houses like church houses like to be next to the church. Excellent. Got a bit lucky there. We got to connect up our trees, and we got to connect up our trees again. Yes, I think actually, Manuel, you might have been the one who told me on another stream that you can put a whole inside another island, which can definitely help minimize the number of islands you have to do. It's not fantastic, but I can put some shore down here and sort of go around it. Okay, that waves is definitely going to be 0. Oh, it's the first time. Oh, okay, so maybe it wasn't you, Manuel. So someone else told me that about the holes in the islands. So yeah, waves can't be in the same row or column as other waves, otherwise they don't score. So it's definitely going to have to be this. And I'll put some waves next here. Okay, so time to draw our islands, and I guess, well, it kind of behooves me to do this island here. Question is going to be, can I fit it all in? I don't think so. Oh, that was lucky. Get in there. Probably don't want more houses, because I think I've got to remember houses like to be near lots of things. You get 2 points for each house near a... So I would get like 2 extra points plus 1. Yeah, maybe just trying to cluster more. Actually, having it here is better because it's next to lots of different things, which is what you want. It's actually worked out. It's been one of the better games for me, I think, for a while. So if I put the house there, just 1 point, which is not very good. I could put some waves in here, and that's fine. Definitely 2 points. That mountain's not going to work. I can get a definite bit of shoreline here. It's nice. That is a bad ship. But we can try and... Yeah, we can try and do the thing with the shoreline here, where I, maximize points around the shoreline. Trees. Well, they could go there. It's not the best place for them. I wonder if I just maximize my... but I can't put them next to it. I could... No, that's not going to work. Well, I'll just give it one point, I guess. It's not too bad. Oh, if only I had a little bit more room here for my trees. Yeah, that's not going to work. I can look for waves. Just have a couple of waves. Oh, and they can't actually be next to each other. I think that's the other thing. So yeah, if I put it here, like directly diagonally adjacent, they would both not score. So if I put it up here, then it's okay. More houses, more houses. Wow, that is a lot of houses. Yeah, why not? Load them up. We could get, if I put a house close here, could get 3 points, which is going to be more than 2 points for a wave. So I'll do that. And then we just need our own little island. Doesn't matter too much. So I'll just go around here, make a little island in the corner. Little desert island with nothing on it. So no ships. Have I scored all my... I swear waves are the things that I always make some random mistake with, but I haven't made any mistakes this time, so it's good. I think I've done, some pretty good shore scoring, or beach scoring. Good points for that. This is where I don't always reliably remember. Okay, so it counts the sort of 8 squares around the house and how many different elements. Jay got 58. All right. I think, let's see. I'll get close. I think at a very good forest area, and mountains did okay, and no errors. It looks like. So let's see. Drum roll. Ooh, 65. Yeah. Okay, so 60 is a good pass score. So yeah, I think I got quite lucky with these forests. You know, I put a few down early, you know, hoping that I was going to get into them. It's like a similar mechanic to like Bunny Kingdom, right, where you draft some territories and you hope that you're going to get the territory that joins them up. And of course, there's no guarantee that you're going to get that. But fortunately, I could put it all together, and I managed to get a lot. Just a lot of houses around a church. Yeah, Zaid, it's a really fantastic game. It's basically a roll and write, you know, in Noah, and I think it just looks really cute. So yeah, I definitely would recommend. Lots of fun. Where can you see the icon rules? So if you go in this question mark in the left-hand corner, then they come up. Manuel says we used to play this daily at the studio and submit our scores. Yeah, so Ross has a. More Games Please Ross has on his Discord. They have a daily challenge. I guess I should post that there. I wonder if it's still doing daily shuffle. Oh yeah. Oh cool. So I will post that on. I'll remember to keep it up. Hope I haven't. Yeah. Yeah. So there you go. So that was a bit of Tiny Islands. I do have a Slay the Spire running still going, but I think I might leave it at that. The last thing I might do is just a little bit of GeoGuessr at the end. Mena says my highest recorded score was 92. Wow, 92. How would you get? I'm trying to think. How would you get 92? Did you get some amazing like houses or something? Because like everything's fairly bounded, I guess. But 92, that is very, very, very impressive. Yeah, I haven't got anything. Yeah, I think for me like 65 is a pretty good score realistically. So yeah, I'm certainly not too worried. Yeah, so we'll just have. I'm just going to do just a tiny little bit of. I won't rearrange that. Tiny bit of GeoGuessr Battle Royale, which seems to be my normal jam. But feel free to keep dropping things in the chat. I'm slowly getting better, learning a bit more of the meta. The meta is essentially all these rules that you have to get to learn about, like the car or the you know, there's all these kind of cheats basically. Almost looks like the Czech Republic, I'd say. Let's see if we can see that bit of language on that. So that, yeah, I have to guess the country if those who don't know. That looks quite. Yeah, are we in Russia? Usually, if I don't see many bad guesses, yeah, okay. So if you see like Cyrillic and nobody's getting anything wrong, because Russia is this sort of usual thing that people will guess fairly quickly. Yeah, 92 is crazy. I don't even know how. I don't even know how you would get 92, but yeah, no, that's really great. It must be fun. Manuel, I have to get you on the stream sometime to talk about what it's like working at a game studio, because if it's as much fun, because I think for me my dream is something like the La Cafetiere, which is the sort of the building that Antoine Bauza bought, which is this kind of like studio where him and Ludovic Bonbonc and a few other designers all sort of hang out in, and like they prototype and playtest, and they've got, you know, like tools and things, because I really like the kind of office environment. I like that kind of chance to, you know, interact with colleagues and chat. But like with game designers, independent game design, you're always just kind of by yourself mostly, which can be a bit yeah, it can be a bit lonely, I guess would be my point. I mean, I guess so. It's not Mexico. Oh, there's a Taco Bell though. I don't know if that. Hold on. Oh, so it must be. Oh, I feel like I should know. This is one of these metas when you look at the car and you see that there are these metal bars on it, essentially. Yeah, so I think we're definitely in. Hold on. Yeah, and this could also be where you just let everybody guess first, and then sort of go from there. But I'm gonna have to actually guess. So could be Colombia, could be Bolivia, Chile, maybe. Yeah, I only need to guess the country. Guatemala. There you go. I love to have that kind of environment. Antoine Buzz Atelier setup sounds great. Yeah, no, exactly. Manuel, do you need to guess the country? Yes, you only have to guess the country. Yeah, so the core bit of the core like GeoGuessr originally was there. Yeah, you really have to just place your thing on a map. But this new battle royale thing is just it's the quickest to guess the country that you're in, and if you're the slowest, you get knocked out. And you get 3 guesses to get it right. So you can also get knocked out if you just get it wrong, essentially. Okay. So am I right that kind of looks Portuguese? Swear Manuel will go yes or no. Colombian colors. Okay. I'll just go with a Colombia, I guess. No. You led me wrong, Jay. I thought you were pro. No. Let me out. I hate these Google Maps sometimes, is that you get stuck weirdly. And I don't understand why. Yeah, like you get stuck in a particular. Oh, okay. It's not looking good. Well, it's not Brazil. Can't be Argentina. It's not Uruguay. Paraguay, maybe. Chile. Yeah. That's Spanish. Thanks. Oh, where were we then? That's going to be like, oh, Ecuador. Wow. Okay, so we've just shown off how bad my South American knowledge is. This isn't just the game where it's just you just get placed in South America all the time, but yeah, obviously I'm a bit better at Europe generally, but yeah. Okay, that is a bit. Okay, so a Cyrillic kind of text. I feel like we're probably like Serbia or maybe Croatia or Ukraine. Is that a U? I think that's U. Hold on. Please hold. No, I can't see the back of that sign. But I guess I would guess Ukraine, probably. Yeah. Yes. Thanks. Thanks, chat. Got me right. Right. Yeah. So yeah, it can be quite strategic to kind of wait for other people to guess because all the wrong guesses come up. So yeah, I think I guess you because you sort of also know the order in which people tend to guess countries. So when you see Cyrillic, everyone will guess Russia first and then Ukraine. And so if you don't see Russia on the wrong list, but no Ukraine yet, and everyone a lot of people got it right, then it's a fairly good guess that that it is in fact Ukraine. Okay, where are we? I mean, it looks. I would have guessed France, actually. Well, it's definitely French, I think. Somebody can. So it could be Belgium, I guess. Oh, yeah. Excellent, excellent. I'm not sure if, yeah. It looks French, but maybe it's not actually French. But yeah. No, it's not, because it would be like Novelle or something, wouldn't it? Yeah. Oh, well. Close enough. Close enough is good enough. Yeah, Manuel, is it do you enjoy the kind of aspect of having colleagues around and sort of is it a good environment to be able to sort of chat to each other and share ideas and this sort of thing? Don't tell me I'm in. Oh no, okay. I mean, it doesn't really look like India. Oh gosh. Okay, I'm just gonna guess India. No. Bangladesh. Shoot. Okay, I don't know. I don't recognize this writing very well. Someone else might. Better than I. Ah, it was Thailand. It can be fun, but more often than not, I'm the only designer on the project, so I get lonely. Oh, okay. So it is sort of a bit similar as being an independent designer as well. Oh well, can't have everything, I guess. He says typing on a stream during working hours. Yeah. Yeah, Nicola, sorry, you had it right. It was Thailand. I was too slow. Yeah, South America and Southeast Asia are my weak spots certainly. But I think Thailand is pretty well represented generally, so maybe I should just blind guess Thailand a bit more often. Okay, we're in some sort of underpass. How much fun. I mean, looks pretty French to me. Would be my guess. Shall we go with France? Oh no, it's not France. But it's, well, I would then guess Belgium, I guess. No, not Belgium. Luxembourg. Yeah. Yeah, interesting to get dropped in an underpass. Yeah. Got there in the end. But I definitely recommend it. It's sort of, it's quite, I found it quite fun, and the battle royale thing is, it's just very quick to just be able to dip in and out of it. I think when I was playing GeoGuessr before, and yeah, like as Manuel said, trying to have to put a specific pin in a particular place, it was just, I think the most fun is that kind of like detective work of trying to work out the country. But for me, yeah, like trying to find the specific place is just too difficult, I think. Okay. Could be anywhere. Can we find a road sign? Wow, okay. Well, at least nobody else has guessed yet. Oh, goodness me. Okay, this is not the most entertaining one. We've just literally been dropped in the middle of nowhere. I always find it funny though, because there's always a part of me that wonders, like, did I just go the wrong direction? Oh my gosh. All right, a sign, a sign. Oops. Ah, of course, it's just immediately. Oh, it's Poland, I think, possibly. Oh, it looked Polish. What, somebody got it? Serbia. Ah. Oh, I feel like the Montenegro. There's like a trick about Montenegro. I didn't look. Where there's like rifts in the sky or something like that, I think. Oh, thanks, Nicola. I have a look at the guide. Scripts of Asia. Yeah, I think, yeah, there's definitely a difference if you want to take it. Yeah, if you want to take it a little bit easier and just check things out. But I don't know, for whatever reason, I like this way of doing things. Whoops, I should have gone back. Muhasir. Interesting. Oh, is it? Russia, Serbia. Maybe North Macedonia. No. No worries. Thanks, Jay. Actually, I'm probably going to wrap it up. Oh, yes. Well done, Manuel. You got Turkey. Anyway, I think that might do it. We're just a bit over 2 hours. But yeah, thanks everyone for well, staying until the end. Through a pretty bad performance on GeoGuessr. I've been doing a bit better than recently, but yeah, maybe I need to practice a bit more. But I hope you all have a really nice week or rest of the evening. And yeah, I'll be back. Yeah, so with a new stream on Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. GMT, 10 a.m. European time. I completely understand, obviously, that it's a bit of a different time for folks. So, but you know, it's also trying to see if there might be people who can't watch at this time that could watch then or something like that. And that'll be probably a stream with a lot. It'll be the stream definitely for tangents. So tangents are welcome on Wednesdays. But yeah, anyway, but thanks very much for hanging around. Let's see if there's anybody we could raid before we go. Ian's, I don't think was Bram here? No, maybe Bram's not streaming at the moment, I guess. We can raid Ian. Is there anybody else would so it's 9 o'clock UK time, so yeah, I'll be definitely finished by 10 o'clock UK to go on to, so people can head over to beds. I don't want to clash. Any idea if anybody would like to raid? If there's no ideas, then I'll head over to Ian Zhang's thing. Just wait a little bit to see if any suggestions, any new streamers. I've been following a lot of these pro GeoGuessers, but that might be a bit too much. They can show you how it's really done. Okay, all right. Well, let's head to Ian and see what he's playing. I think he's playing some Falling Skies, so see how it goes. But yeah, thanks very much everyone, and have a great week. And yeah, catch you on Wednesday or Friday. Okay, thanks very much. Bye.